Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by actress of the movies, now TV, stage, an author, a mother, a professor, lots of other monikers, and personally, I say icon, the one and only Miss Ali Sheedy.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for all the monikers. Love it.
Listen, you deserve them all. What is going on? How are you today?
I'm good. I'm happy to be talking to you.
Are you in New York also?
I'm in New York. Yes, I live in New York.
It's cold. Me too. It's cold out, right? And we're just here plugging along this winter.
Yes, living in my kitchen, living on Zoom. Pretty
You,
much live in the kitchen on Zoom. There's like a little desk set up here, and this is where I am all day.
isn't it funny how, like, especially in New York, like you got to figure out your proper Zoom angle, and like I've gone through so many bad ones. I'm like, okay, I finally got something that is kind of okay for me.
I teach online. So I had already figured out, as a professor, I don't want anybody looking at my apartment, right? So I had already figured out there's this one blank wall, and I set up my table with all my stuff. It's my desk in the kitchen. So the kitchen has now become the workroom, but these are the times we live in.
I love it. And it's such a time of New York. It's like New York living. Well,
Yes.
listen, I cannot wait. I have to tell you, as we were just saying before we went on air, Single Drunk Female, this new show, Freeform. I literally love this show. I really do.
So glad. I'm so glad. I'm glad. I love it too.
I'm not just saying that like just because you're here, but it's really a great show. So I would like to talk all about it. But before we get there, looking back, let's look back for a minute. You know, your first film, Bad Boys, does that seem like another lifetime? Who is that girl? Or do you have like really vivid memories from starting out in this business?
I have vivid memories of Bad Boys because I absolutely loved Sean Penn. I really did. And just from working with him, I learned a lot. It was a wonderful experience on that movie. It was my first movie. So I was just trying to take everything in as much as I could, but thank God I had him there, you know. I just watch him. I just watch him work.
Was there like one overriding thing that you learned from Sean Penn?
I think it's mostly about the way that he lives in every moment. You know, as soon as, you know, he's very interior, or he was back then, like very internal. But when he's on the set, he's always in the space of that character. And the moment a camera goes on, he's just, every single moment is so authentic and honest, and he's just living it from moment to moment. I mean, he does things differently every single time, and he's inventive and he's lovely. I was just a little bit in awe, and just watching the way that he handled himself and his work on set, because it was my first time.
And that's not a bad person to work with on your first movie.
Right? Amazing. Yeah.
Seriously. Well, after that, in the 80s, you were so busy, you know, Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, War Games, Short Circuit. I mean, you were working like nonstop. What was that time like, other than being extremely busy?
It was fun. I was very, very happy. I loved the group of actors that I fell in with. First, it was some actors because I went to the BFA program at USC. And then as I was working, I didn't know anybody in LA. I'm from New York. I started to make friends with everyone I was working with on the set. And I loved it. I loved working. I loved the whole day at work. I loved learning about the camera and how this whole thing works, and going from job to job. It was just all a very exhilarating time. But I was pretty much filled with joy. Whenever I was at work, I was extremely happy and at peace with myself.
That's good. Well, you were working all the time. I mean, so many people obviously get into the business for the work, like to act. But then, I mean, where do then we have this thing called fame, so to speak. So where did when did you first, I guess, realize, you were famous and like this whole identity, like when did that kind of strike you of like, wait, like you were from New York, you knew what you were getting into, but when did that kind of hit you?
There was a lag time. It was not right away. I think I knew that War Games was a big success. But at that time, all the way through the 80s in LA, I did not watch television ever. I didn't read magazines. I didn't any Hollywood type of magazines. I didn't purposely, I was never that, I never really did anyway in my life. But at that point, I wanted to stay away from it. I just wanted to be able to figure out how to have a life and just focus on work and not think about all the extra stuff that was going on. So once in a while, something would happen and it would strike me, wow, I guess we're all getting really, really famous. I didn't realize how much of a thing it was until the Brat Pack article came out. And that was just a huge, horrible kind of explosion. At that point, I realized, wow, that for some reason, this thing is really taking off and people talking about it. It's becoming a thing. I think that was when I first realized that we had all gotten very famous, believe it or not.
Wow. I mean, so do you look back to that time when you weren't reading like the articles and like that must have been peaceful in a sense? You were just focusing on the work.
Yeah, it was a conscious choice. It wasn't that I used to watch, shows about Hollywood people. It's not like I made the change. It's just that I just stayed with what I had always done. I thought probably it's going to be better sanity wise to not pay a lot of attention. I had lived a very, very quiet life. I didn't go to parties and hang out with people. I lived in various places that were way outside of Hollywood. And I just tried to, make my life about just loving the moment. I was really trying to live like that. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
reading all
totally.
the spiritual books. I just loving the moment and being in the moment. And here's the ocean. And wow, I live in LA. Nobody walks in the street here. It's all a big new experience. There were a few years in there where I just felt like I was shifting into a different person because all I knew was New York, and yet trying to keep myself as grounded as I could.
Did things change? Like when you said like it was a horrible explosion when the Brat Pack article came out, I mean, was that just like, wait, what is this? And why is this term being used? And where did this come from?
It was awful because it was, first of all, it was a construct, right? It was a setup. How that whole thing happened, which I really don't want to go into that much, but it was. And then it was just such a flippant sort of title, but I could feel there was this weird energy going. I could feel sort of this tide turning against the group of us, as in too famous, too fast, too much, too fast, something. Could just sort of feel it in the air. And then there was a lot less hanging out of this particular group that would go on. I felt like everything had been fun and joyful, and suddenly everything got very stressful overnight.